she said. I lied about the miscarriage. I got an abortion. I replied, I know. Then I played the recording of her laughing about it with her friends. Her parents disowned her that night. I, 35 male, thought I had my life figured out. Stable career in logistics, a 5-year plan, and a loving fiancée, Chloe. We were supposed to be a team. We had just started trying for a baby, a mutual decision that felt like the natural, exciting next step. 3 months ago, she came to me, tears streaming down her face, and told me she'd had a miscarriage. I was gutted, absolutely shattered. All our hopes for that little life, the future we had just started to imagine in vivid detail, were gone in an instant. I held her. I grieved with her. I meticulously packed away the little book of baby names we had started. I put my own profound pain aside to be her rock, to be the stoic, supportive partner she needed. For 3 long months, I supported a woman wrapped in a blanket of sorrow, never once questioning the authenticity of her pain. That all changed last Tuesday. I'm a bit of a tech guy, and I had just bought a new smart home hub, one of those ones that links everything. While setting it up, I was trying to sync my phone's voice notes, which I use for work reminders. The system was being glitchy, and in a moment of frustration, I commanded, play last voice note, but it didn't play mine. In a bizarre cross-sync, it accessed Chloe's cloud-synced phone backups. A woman's voice, bright and clear, filled the room. It wasn't Chloe's. So are you ever going to tell him? Then I heard Chloe's voice. But it wasn't the sad, fragile version I'd been living with for the past 3 months. This voice was light, airy, and dripping with a condescension that made my blood run cold. Oh God, no. Are you kidding? She laughed. The miscarriage was the perfect out. He was so supportive. Bless his little heart. He was crying more than I was. A peal of shared laughter echoed in my silent living room. The other voice, who I now recognized as her best friend Jenna, chimed in. Seriously though, you dodged a bullet. Can you imagine being tied to this town forever? Diapers and daycare, you'd have lost your mind. Chloe's reply was the nail in the coffin of the life I thought we had. Exactly, she said, her tone smug. I was panicking. The abortion was the easiest decision I ever made. And Alex, he just wrapped me up in a cashmere blanket and brought me soup. He bought the whole sad story, hook, line, and sinker. It's almost too easy. The recording ended. The silence that followed was heavier than anything I have ever known. It wasn't just the lie about the abortion. It was the mockery. It was the contempt. She hadn't just made a different choice for her body. She had used my grief as a shield, my love as a tool of manipulation, and my trust as a punchline to a cruel joke. The hurt was so profound, it became something else entirely. A cold, crystalline clarity. I didn't yell. I didn't smash anything. I calmly downloaded the audio file and saved it to 3 separate, secure locations. Then I sat down on the couch, the same couch where I had held her while she grieved, and I started to think. She hadn't just deceived me. She had deceived her own parents, who were devastated by the miscarriage. Her father, Mark, a traditional man, had taken me aside, man to man, and thanked me for being strong for his daughter. Her mother, Susan, had been cooking us meals twice a week, her eyes full of shared sorrow. They were all unwitting characters in the tragic play she was directing. I decided then that a simple breakup was not enough. A quiet exit would allow her to control the narrative, to paint me as the man who abandoned his grieving fiancée. No, the truth needed an audience of the people she had manipulated the most. I let her come home from work that evening. I watched her put on her mask of gentle melancholy. She sighed heavily as she sat on the couch, pulling a blanket over her legs. Another long day, she murmured, waiting for the customary flood of my sympathy. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment, letting her grow uncomfortable. Then I spoke. We need to talk. Of course, honey. What is it? She said, her voice a perfect imitation of soft concern. I'm ending things, Chloe. I want you to pack a bag and move out tonight. The mask didn't just slip, it shattered. Her eyes widened, first in shock, then in a flash of pure, unadulterated anger. What? Why? Is this about the miscarriage? Are you blaming me? I knew it. I knew you couldn't handle it. After everything I've been through, you're abandoning me. I held up a hand, my voice devoid of all emotion. It has nothing to do with a miscarriage. It's because you lied. You had an abortion. The denial came instantly, theatrical and furious. How dare you? How could you say something so vile and cruel to me? I lost our baby, and you accuse me of this. You're a monster, Alex. I just looked at her, at the stranger standing in my living room, and said two simple words. I know. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with unspoken truth. Her fury wavered, replaced by a flicker of pure panic in her eyes. She had no idea how I knew, and that terrified her. Her panic escalated into a full-blown meltdown, but not of guilt. It was the tantrum of a mastermind, whose flawless plan had just hit an inexplicable wall. She did exactly what I predicted she would. She grabbed her phone, tears of rage and fear now streaming down her face. I'm calling my parents, she sobbed. They need to know what a heartless bastard you've become, accusing me of that after I lost our child. Good, I said. Have them come over. We should all be clear on what happened. She shot me a look of venomous confusion, but made the call, launching into a hysterical performance for her father. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find her father, Mark, red-faced and ready for a fight, with his wife, Susan, trailing behind him. What the hell is the meaning of this, Alex? Mark boomed, stepping inside, kicking my daughter out, accusing her of unspeakable things when she's at her lowest point. Have you lost your mind? Chloe ran to them, burying her face in her father's chest. He's being so cruel, Daddy. I closed the door and faced the three of them, a fortress of misplaced family loyalty. I'm not being cruel, I said, my voice steady. I'm being honest, which is more than I can say for your daughter. What tragedy are you referring to, Susan? I asked. The one she invented? Before the shouting could start again, I held up my phone. Before you do anything, I said, I think you should listen to something. Chloe seems to have a different perspective on her tragedy when she's talking to her friends. I pressed play. The room was silent, except for the bright, cheerful voices coming from my phone's speaker. Jenna's voice. So are you ever going to tell him? Chloe's laughing reply. Oh God, no. Are you kidding? The miscarriage was the perfect out. He was so supportive. Bless his little heart, he was crying more than I was. I watched Mark's arm, the one holding Chloe, go completely stiff. Susan's hand flew to her mouth. The recording continued, every word a hammer blow to the reality they thought they knew. Jenna's voice. Seriously though, you dodged a bullet. Can you imagine being tied to this town forever? Chloe's reply. Exactly. I was panicking. The abortion was the easiest decision I ever made. He bought the whole sad story, hook, line, and sinker. It's almost too easy. I stopped the recording. No one moved. The only sound was Chloe's ragged breathing, her fake sobs having died in her throat. She slowly pulled away from her father, her face pale and slack with shock. Mark's face had gone from red-hot anger to an ashen gray. He looked from me to his daughter, his eyes filled with a dawning horror and a level of disappointment so profound it was terrifying to witness. Daddy, Chloe whispered. It's not what it sounds like. It was just a joke. Mark raised a hand, and she flinched. He looked at her like she was a complete stranger. You lied to us, he said, his voice a low, guttural rumble. You let your mother grieve for a grandchild that never was. You used this boy's decency against him. You made us all fools. Susan finally spoke, her voice trembling with a fury I'd never heard from her. You invent a tragedy. You watch us all weep for you, then you laugh about it behind our backs. What have you become? Chloe looked between them, her manipulative playbook utterly empty. There were no more lies to tell. Mark turned to her, his decision made. Go pack a bag, just the essentials. "Are we going to the house?" she asked, a sliver of hope in her voice. "No," Mark said, his voice cold and final. "We'll get you a room at a motel for the night. You can figure out your next steps from there. But you are not welcome in our home. You have disgraced this family, Chloe. I don't even know who you are." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a strange mixture of apology and shame. "I am sorry, Alex, for all of it." He then turned and walked out the door. Susan gave Chloe one last look of utter disgust before following him. Disowned, in my living room, just like that. She looked at me, her eyes screaming 1,000 accusations. "You did this," she hissed. "You had an abortion, faked a miscarriage, and laughed about my pain with your friends." I replied, my voice flat. "I just held up a mirror. Don't blame me for the reflection you see." I walked to the spare room, pulled out an overnight bag, and dropped it on the floor next to her. "Your father is waiting. I suggest you don't keep him." The aftermath was a methodical untangling of my life from hers. I changed the locks, closed our joint accounts, and started the process of having the car she drove, which was in my name, either refinanced or repossessed. The backlash came, as expected, from her enabler, Jenna, who called me a manipulative monster. I simply blocked her number. I have no time for the best friend who laughed along with the joke. 6 months have passed. The car was repossessed. The smear campaign she and Jenna tried to launch on social media backfired when the truth of the situation inevitably leaked out. Her relationship with her parents is still fractured. They are providing minimal support to keep her from being homeless, but the trust and love are gone. She's working as a waitress, struggling. The life of freedom she thought an abortion would preserve turned out to be a lonely, dead-end reality. As for me, the first few months were about processing the betrayal. It's hard to accept that the person you planned a future with saw you as a fool to be laughed at, but removing her from my life was like removing a poison. There was no grand explosive revenge. The most satisfying outcome wasn't my action, but the inevitable consequence of hers. She didn't just lie to me, she lied to everyone who loved her. She built her world on a foundation of deceit, and when one brick was removed, the entire structure collapsed.